Hey friends, this is your flight instructor Dale here again for another video. On my first video I had a commenter, Cameron, ask me about making a video regarding your solo cross country, and I am so appreciative of that. Thank you, Cameron. So regarding your solo cross country, is there anything in particular, anything about a lesson plan or ground school that you're hung up on? Let me know and I will address that. And that goes for everyone. If you have any questions, let me know and I will get into that. I could make a lesson about ground school and that could be 4 hours, so I would have to cut that up to smaller bits so that people might watch it. As an immediate response, something that may be interesting is my advice as like a friend to someone who's had adequate ground school going into their solo cross country and is maybe just a little less than confident about it. So I made a list and it's on my whiteboard behind the camera. I can bring it out to show you. But my first advice is to file and open a flight plan and follow it. The benefit to that is you're telling the FAA or air traffic control where you're going to go and when you're going to get there. And so the good news is you call that up and open it and they say, great, they start a little stopwatch. And they're expecting you to finish flying when you tell them you'll be finished. And if you never tell them, please tell them. But if you never tell them, they'll first call you. And if you don't answer the phone, then they'll call the airport. And then they'll just start a search and rescue for you. So the good thing about that is if you unfortunately crash, they'll start looking along the route that you said that you would take and start looking for a plane, which could really help you out. That could really be a good thing for you. I also recommend allowing extra time for fun. So for example, when I did mine, there was an old World War II bomber on the field. And so I had the extra time to have a lunch and climb around the bomber and call my mom, have a really good time, poke around the airport and see what kind of fun things you have. And if you have enough time, take a courtesy vehicle, which if you don't know what that is, a lot of airports will have an vehicle, a car that you can borrow for a couple hours, take into town, grab a meal, come back and leave the keys. Really cool if you leave gas in the car. So add extra time for fun. Don't make this just a lesson. Make this a real cool experience. Go out and do something fun with your day. Also, I recommend not cheating unless you have to. And by cheating, I mean using a GPS or seeing where you are on your iPad or your Google Maps or Ask Jeeves Maps. So I mean, if you're in an emergency, go ahead and do that, but do everything you can to find out where you are with your aeronautical charts, with your VORs, whatever it is you're learning from. Make this a learning experience, and sometimes learning experiences can be stressful and frustrating, but do everything you can to not cheat your way through it, because you'd be cheating out your own education. And once you have learned how to get yourself unlost, it's such a cool thing to be able to do in the future. Definitely recommend it. Also, one thing I learned in Idaho, so as a base, I speak English and Idahoan. Sometimes my Idahoan comes out. My instructor was a backcountry pilot, and she taught me to bring a emergency backpack with me when I did my cross countries. Luckily, I've never needed one, but oh man, my life would be better if I did need one. So in your backpack, bring an emergency radio, whether it's a ham radio or an aviation one, so you can reach out to people flying over you. Water, iodine tablets, a compass, and it's a good idea to wear boots, especially if you're flying over the mountains. If you're doing all of your training over Kansas or Texas, maybe shoes, but boots, because if you land in rough terrain and it's just up to your little feet to get you out of there, you don't want to be cruising around in flip-flops, no matter what a cool vibe that is, Also, personally, my biggest struggle was to stay focused, because Even now, I'll get in the air and just flying around and think like, oh wow, oh that's a cool mountain. Oh wow, are those deer? And just having a great time looking out the window and being a tourist. I sympathize with you. You have my forgiveness. You have my understanding. I am a total tourist. I fly over the state of Alaska and I am in love with the glaciers. I don't have a lot of pictures of glaciers on my phone. Love glaciers. So I am sympathetic to that, but stay focused. Got to keep on it. Don't become a passenger. And the reason for that is you might miss a checkpoint, you might miss your fuel, your time, and you definitely don't want to be out there and realize that you passed where you were supposed to turn and think, oh no, how many minutes was it? Like, what's my actual ground speed? What's my actual fuel burn? And get stressed out about that. You don't want to do that. So please, as amazing and as beautiful as it is to fly, keep focused and keep sharp on where you are and how your flight's going, because things can happen quickly. Ooh, a surprise one that I hadn't thought of. It's super easy on your cross country to look at your map and see farm or junkyard, and oh, I'm going to use those as my references. And then you get there and which farm? There are 12 farms out here, or which junkyard? Every farm is a junkyard. So be careful about where you're using. Maybe a definitive bend in a river, maybe a whole town, maybe crossing a highway. Pick references that that you'll be able to see and be able to navigate off of and use as your reference points. Also, don't be afraid to hold hands. If you get lost, tell air traffic control. Get on guard, which is 121.5, that's the emergency frequency, and say, hey guys, Cessna 42 Lima, I'm lost. And then you'll have a bunch of regional airline pilots meowing at you, and then a whole bunch of senior legacy pilots yelling at you that you're on guard. But after that subsides, say, hey guys, I'm using guard because I need it. I need help. And then there are the 5 C's that are supposed to really help you, which I recommend. Is climb. So just start flying higher, and that way you can get on ATC's radar. That way you can get a better radio reception. Communicate, which is your second C, which is talk to ATC. ATC monitors guard, air traffic control, and confess. Say, hey guys, I'm lost, and they may not know where you are, but they'll say squawk 4201 on your transponder, and they'll say hit ident, and so you 4201 ident, and then it tells them, hey, this is the guy that's lost, and then they'll tell you turn right heading 270 and fly at 5,000 feet, and then you just do what you're told, which is comply is the next one. So just do as they tell you, and they'll set you back on your route. They'll point you towards Corvallis if that's where you're going, and conserve, which means try to lean out your engine, use less fuel as necessary, because you put yourself in a pickle being lost and you are quickly running out of gas. So that's my general suggestion for your solo cross country. I would say in my top 5 favorite flights I've ever done, my solo cross country is in there. That is the flight that I fell in love with flying. ATC made me contact an Airbus on guard. I had no idea what that meant. If anyone asks you to go on guard, that's the emergency frequency, which is 121.5, and you'll just try to get in touch with another plane that might be lost or missed a radio switch off, anything like that. I flew extra low to get a real good view of some lava fields. Don't recommend that. Make sure you have a proper glide slope everywhere you go. But man, enjoy your solo cross country. That was the best flight I've ever had. Nah, not the best. There were a couple others, but it's in the top 3 or 4 for sure. So as an addendum for the hangar video, just wanted to make a couple other points for our question. Deciding checkpoints. It's most useful if it is a very minute spot that you're going over. You don't want to say you're a beam a volcano or a beam a city, because you can be a beam a city or a mountain for 10 minutes. You want to be immediately over a small fix. So it could be over a ridge, over an interstate, over a river. My favorite is over an airport because you can say exactly where that is. So I would recommend that. Also, the very first fix that you tend to go to is a throwaway fix. You can have your time from takeoff to top of climb, and it will never, ever be right. And if it is, I'll make fun of you. Performance, I really recommend simple math because you don't want to be spending all your time really trying to figure out difficult math when you're flying. So some things that if you're in a Cessna 150, it's real easy to say instead of 100 miles an hour, you're doing 90 knots or just fly 90 knots. So that way you're doing, every 3 minutes or every 2 minutes you're doing 3 knots. Or if you're doing 109 knots, as my plane does, that'll be 120 miles an hour. So every 2 minutes you're doing, or every single minute you're doing 2 miles. So try to figure out if knots or miles an hour is better for your simple math, because it's easier to come up with a mile every 45 seconds or a mile every minute and a half or every 30 seconds. You want it to be easier math. Also with your climb, you can do your VX, VY climbs or a power cruise. I always do a power cruise at 90 knots because simple math. But you can do a performance climb at 60 knots or 60 miles an hour, close to VX or VY, because now you're doing mile a minute. So, or not 1 nautical mile a minute. Either which way works best for you. Weather contingencies. So in real life and everything, what has worked best for me is if I find airports that are kind of near each other, if I'm going to go one direction, if the runways are at 90 degrees from each other. Because if you have a 40 knot wind on the ground at Idaho Falls, you're not going to be able to land there, but that same 45 knot wind at Twin Falls is straight down the runway. So try to find a backup plan that if you get too much wind, no problem. Similarly, if you're having trouble scheduling a plane and you're only able to get it one day, have contingency across countries, north, south, east, west. So in case there is bad storm to the west, you can go to the east or south. The way you can still make your appointment and still make your lesson, but you may not get the initial place that you want to go. Diversions, I love diversions. I can spend a whole hour on this, and if you need me to do less of a brush over on it, let me know and I will get into it. Real life, the only diversions I've done were for bathroom emergencies, and that will happen more than you want. But in your lesson plans on your check ride, a meteor is going to strike the airport you're going to, and you're going to have to go somewhere else. So the short of it would be do a quick emergency turn, or not emergency turn, but like, oh, my new alternate airport is to the left. I'm going to turn left. And let's look at the map. What I recommend is make little notches on your pen at every 10 nautical miles, so you can just throw your pen onto your chart and say, ooh, that is 40 knots. 40 knots, if I'm flying 120 knots, is 20 minutes. And I'm burning 10 gallons an hour of fuel. So that is about, we'll be generous and say 4 gallons. That's an exaggeration, always exaggerate. Do I have 4 gallons of fuel? Yes. I can get there, no problem. And then be on your way. At that point, once you're on your way, you can bring out your E6B. You can then calculate exactly the heading you need to go and exactly the miles, or knots. So instead of 40, it's actually 38, great. And instead of traveling at 120, ooh, this new ground speed's going to be 116. So at that point, you can E6B your way through and find out exactly when you get there. And by the time you get exactly where you're going, you'll pass your check ride because you've gotten exactly where you should be when you want to be. Hopefully that didn't brush over it too much. If you have more questions about this, let me know. I want to avoid rambling on too much, but at the same time, I don't want to do a disjustice by skipping over things. If you have any specific questions, if you are hung up on how to work the E6B, if you're hung up on how to decipher weather or performance or any of these things, please let me know. And I'm happy to address these as needed or just go through the whole Jepson book and teach you my perspectives on it. But thank you for asking a question, and any other that you may have, please let me know. And also, friends, if there are any instructors, any other pilots watching, if you have any pointers yourself that you would like to include for your solo cross country, let me know. And if I said anything wrong, please let me know. And hope to hear more from everyone.